Hello everyone. So I mostly avoid Instagram threads because I find it a little depressing. But once in a while I come across something a little interesting and it reminds me of the different phases where I have been in my life mentally. And then I feel like I have something to say here. So I came across one such thread and I also responded to that thread. Um, this is what it says. So basically it's a girl and she is asking, how do you get over someone? It's been 9 months. I still wake up thinking about him. He directly told me to invest my time in someone who actually wants to be with me. I'm having a hard time letting go because the dating scene is awful. He was the first man in a long time who truly saw me, which I don't agree that he perhaps truly saw you, but going on. A misunderstanding in whether I could join him or not on a business trip ultimately led me down an anxious spiral that led me calling him 8 times one night, and he was done. I learned from a friend later that his previous ex used to blow up his phone constantly. So I learned a very basic, very painful lesson, blah, blah, blah. I need to be emotionally regulated and a safe space if I'm to welcome a wonderful person in my life. Truth be told, I put a lot of pressure on the connection because everyone around me was getting married and I panicked thinking I have to make this work. I see so many things that I disagree with, also in the way that this lady, is processing what has happened. And I want to talk about that because I have been there. I have blamed myself for almost everything going wrong in my life, with people especially. Now, the number one thing is where I want to start with is blowing up someone's phone for one night, 8 calls in one night, especially when you're dating someone and where it has progressed to both of you truly liking someone and making each other feel seen. And both of you are entering into that equation hoping for or aspiring for a long term commitment. A long term commitment, potentially ending in a marriage or with a family or whatever. 8 calls in one night is an inconvenience at best. That is in the scenario that you do not like this. Some other person might actually like it. They might actually not like someone being extremely nonchalant. But okay, you were bothered by 8 calls. At best, this is an inconvenience, and a simple hey, what's up, a simple communication can solve that inconvenience. What do you expect when you get into date? What does a human being expect when they get into a relationship hoping for it to be long term? Do you expect another human being to be pleasant and unproblematic and absolutely emotionally regulated 100% of the times? You only expect it to be roses and sunshine 365 days a year? A part of a commitment is that I have to understand you and you have to understand me. And obviously, we are going to have our boundaries. So, physical violence is a no no, emotional manipulation is a no no. But when you see that the other person is simply anxious, it's not something that is like life changing. And most people who enter into relationships where they really want to stay, they are willing to put up with this. We are having this discussion over and over again in today's times that the cost of community is annoyance. When the cost of community is annoyance, which means that if you want a community, you have to be willing to be put at inconvenience at some points in life. And you can't be like, I want a community, but nobody should ever inconvenience me. For a romantic relationship that is potentially going to end up in you getting married and having children and having a family, the bar should be even higher. The bar should be so much higher than this. So, a person who is one inconvenience away from walking out of your life should not be romanticized so much. I think that's my problem. It's wonderful to be emotionally regulated, but sometimes when you're operating from a place of abandonment or from a fear of abandonment, right? For example, so when you're operating from a place of a fear of abandonment, you tend to create this version of yourself in your head which is perfect, which is always pleasant, which is never in a bad mood, never even overtly passionate about something, always in this stable, monotone, predictable mood, which is not only unrealistic, it is unhealthy. It is unhealthy for a human being to be in the same mood at all times. Your moods are going to be reactions, they are going to be responses to the situations in your life. Some things are going to make you very angry, some things are going to make you very happy, some things are going to make you very anxious. That is a part of the human experience. But because you're operating from a place of abandonment or a place of slightly low self esteem, you create this version in your head which should be unabandonable. Unabandonable. So I will become so perfect that no one ever has a reason to leave me, a reason to abandon me. Whereas a person who is not operating from this kind of a place of abandonment, they are not thinking backwards. Like you are from this place of abandonment. Maybe your friends abandoned you in childhood, maybe your parents did, maybe the community did, whatever happened. Now you are standing on this brink and you are thinking backwards and you are like, what could I have done differently so I wouldn't have been abandoned? This person would have chosen to stay. This is how you think. But a person who is not operating from this place of abandonment, they are not thinking backwards because they understand that they were not the reason why their parents chose to not abandon them. They were not completely the reason why their friends chose to not abandon them. These Some of these things just happen, and it has as much to do with the other person as it has to do with you. So, and you know it, especially when you're a child, it has completely to do with the other person. It completely has to do with the adults in your life. You you know that. You know that it is not by virtue of your being a good child that you were not abandoned. And you don't carry that baggage in your next relationships. And also, sometimes as a child, when your needs are fairly met, you develop what I call, what I understand as a healthy ego. And by the age of 2021, I think if you have had a relatively stable childhood, you should have a healthy ego, which means that it is your sense of self preservation. I want to preserve myself. So, because I want to preserve myself and it is necessary to preserve myself, I will not pour into people who don't pour into me beyond a period of time. I will not entertain non reciprocal relationships or non reciprocal friendships for years and years. I will not romanticize people who have chosen to walk away from me and have chosen to and are comfortable with never seeing my face again. I will not romanticize those people because there's nothing romantic about someone choosing to leave you after a single inconvenience. It's not romantic. But a lot of the times, the things that I have mentioned, romanticizing people who have chosen to leave you and are moving on with their lives, um, participating in completely non reciprocal relationships or non reciprocal friendships. There's another thing, limerence. For people who have not heard of this, limerence is when you form these imagination ships in your head with someone and you invest a lot of your energy in those imaginary relationships, and then it's almost like energy invested in a real relationship. People who hold on to relationships which are not serving them, which where they feel constantly undervalued or even abused, all these things are, or people who don't get over someone who left them years ago, and someone, it's not like okay we cannot move ahead so both of us decide. It's like someone who's making an active choice every day to not be with you, and people who cannot get over these situations. There is one thread that is usually it connects all these different people, and there is also a fair degree of overlap. So if you are a person who is finding it unable to get over someone who left you uh, 2 years ago, and if you are also usually the person who's heavily investing in non-reciprocal relationships, you're also usually the person who really craves acceptance and validation from people. So there is a fair degree of overlap, and this is not a disrespect at all. I'm just trying to form a pattern so that, like, one can see how these different people are connected. So, the one thread that connects all these different kinds of people is a fear of abandonment. And very often, it is the precursor to this is an actual abandonment which happened in childhood, whether it was physical abandonment by a parent, or it was emotionally abandoning you, or it was sometimes it's not parents, sometimes it's you. Maybe you are on the spectrum, maybe you are autistic, maybe you are neurodivergent, maybe you have a disability, differently abled. Whenever you are different as a child, different in a good way or different in a bad way, maybe you were overweight, maybe you were too smart in a certain dimension, whatever sets you apart also makes you very lonely, because people starting from children all the way up to adults, and then people on their deathbeds, they do not like to see difference. Anyone who is different is rejected. So anything that makes you different from the average, it also subjects you to abandonment and rejection. And sometimes if you have had certain kind of a trauma happen to you in your childhood, it takes longer for you to develop that ego, that sense of self preservation, a very positive ego which says, this is me as a person, these are the things I'm good at, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like, these are the things I bring in a relationship, these are the things I bring in a friendship, and these are the things I value in a friendship or in a relationship. I have done this for a lot of years in my life, where I used to think that if I am to be accepted by people, because when we are abandoned constantly, we internalize this message that we are inherently unlovable. If you are an autistic child, it's very difficult for you to not internalize the message that there is something deeply wrong with how God created you. If you are homosexual, if you are anything that is not of, that is out of the norm, anything that is out of the norm, and people are constantly rejecting you for that, it is almost impossible for you as a child to not internalize that feeling and not say that okay, everybody is rejecting me, maybe I'm not acceptable, maybe there's a flaw in the way that God created me. And because there is a flaw in my structure, I have to make myself into this version of perfection which is unabandonable. And when I make myself this, I will have won in life. And as a child, you also crave acceptance very much. So I don't know if there is a way to think around it unless you have very solid parents who are going to tell you that that is not the, what you are thinking is not true. People just don't like difference, and what people like and what they don't like cannot rule your life, because you will kill your self esteem in the process of wanting to be liked, and you are still not going to get anywhere. Anyways, So this message is, oh, it's my fault, I blew up his phone 8 times. I don't know what the backstory is, but blowing up somebody's phone 8 times is not a, it's a very minor thing, especially if otherwise both of you are getting along really well. The only thing that someone has to say is, hey, it's all right, don't be anxious, I'm here. And then, if that person is telling you to invest your time in someone who actually wants to be with you, that means that the person did not want to be with you that seriously and was still choosing to be in your life, knowing that you are far more emotionally invested. He still chose to be around as long as you didn't make it too inconvenient. So, as long as you made it convenient for him to stick around, he was more than happy to stick around, knowing that his investment was not as much as yours. You should be judging this guy, my friend. You should not be judging yourself. Why will, first of all, you begin to date someone seriously, like get into serious relationships, when you have zero emotional preparedness, zero emotional readiness to deal with what comes in those relationships? I think a 20, 19-year-old guy these days knows that if you are going to get into a relationship, you have to be prepared. This is, you look like you are of a marriable age. So maybe the guy was also around a similar age. Why are you going to get into a relationship if you're not ready for whatever emotional work that comes with it? And then once you get into a relationship with a woman, why are you staying there knowing that you don't really want to be there? Knowing that she wants to be there, you are just staying there as long as it's convenient. That speaks about his integrity much more than it speaks about your emotional regulation. And if you could see things as impartially as you should, as you would if you have a healthy sense of ego, a healthy sense of identity, before judging yourself, you would judge this other person. You would say that what he has done is unethical. You're not just supposed to be in people's lives who are pouring everything into you just because it's convenient. This is wrong. It's like me taking stuff from you because you are willing to give. I'm just taking it. I know that I have no intention of giving anything back, but I will just keep on taking it and I will wait for the day when you actually ask me something in return. And then I will just be like, hey, listen, I'm not doing this. This is unethical. This is pathetic. This is not the behavior of someone who has integrity or has a spine. And I think that you should be grateful that this ended, because in these equations and in these kinds of friendships and relationships where people just tolerate you as long as you don't inconvenience them, they can tolerate you. They have learned detaching themselves so much that they can tolerate you for 20 odd years before it becomes like too inconvenient for them, or before you drop dead and then they find another person after one whole day of grief. It's not like this is, the bar is too low when you say, oh, he broke up with me or this friendship ended because I called one too many times one day. This is not a bar to be had for any kind of relationship, and I wish that you can flip this abandonment wound. You can tell yourself that this has nothing to do with you, the abandonment that you experience, and you can train yourself into liking yourself enough where you do not blame yourself for other people's lack of integrity or other people's foolishness. I hope that that happens. And if you were in a place where I think you deserve to be mentally, you would be judging this guy, not trying to still get over him. Perhaps there would be grief because you say that he made you feel seen, but people can make other people feel seen momentarily because the going is good. You understand, when both of you are in that moment, but that doesn't mean that that person has the integrity or the strength to carry that over a lifetime, which is what essentially is what you want. So I wish that you and anyone who is struggling from this kind of an abandonment issue is able to n- not, whatever you have internalized, whichever ideas about yourself you have internalized, you're able to push those ideas away, and then you're able to not just ask yourself, does this person like me? Also ask yourself, do I like this person? Is this person stable enough, strong enough, committed enough, full of integrity enough for me to have children with and for me to spend a lifetime with? I think a lot of the times we are so busy trying to get chosen that we never even ask if the people who we want should choose us, if we even like those people, if we even respect them. Yep. Thank you very much.